Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
There are few places I would rather be than right here in the booth breaking down UFC Fight Night 195, a hell of a main event versus the killer gorilla, Jared Cannonier, ranked number 3 in the middleweight division, taking on the timeless Kelvin Gastelum, number 9 in the middleweight division. My name is Derick G. I am your host, and you know I can't break it down without my co-host right here. You know, NFL season right around the corner, big dog. I've been hitting up these Raiders events, doing the whole 9. How you feeling about your Minnesota Vikings this season, dog?
Man, to be honest, Derick, I've been a bad fan and I've been falling off a little bit, but I know me and the homies got the fantasy draft coming up in a couple weeks, so I got to get on that skull life back. You know, how you feeling, man? I'm excited. I'm excited to see, man. It's good to take another outlet of the sports media going forward, man. How you feeling about the Raiders this year?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic. We in the Death Star. We in that beautiful stadium, man. Derek Carr better put in some work. You know what I'm saying? Henry Ruggs III. We blowing up. Hunter Renfrow, the whole 9. But listen, folks, I could talk about football all day long. Do a whole football podcast in and of itself. But we here to talk MMA, big dog. And just a little foreshadowing. Hopefully, one of these days, we get to see that fabled Israel style bender Adesanya versus John Jones in the Death Star in Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. That would be amazing. I don't know if the UFC could pack out a football stadium. That's big work, man. The first one to do it, I think, was Garth Brooks. And that's like the big country star dude, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Glad to hear that you're doing well, my man. But let's do what we do best and talk some fights and all that, man. 88-63 record for me, 70-81 for you. And we got an interesting poster that we need to talk about really quickly, AJ. It's right here in the corner. You know what I do? I'll bring it up, make it a little bit bigger for us. We got a little bit of foreshadowing to it, you know, last week or whatever. But listen, man, this is kind of interesting. Jared Cannonier, you got a Kelvin Gastelum who is kind of like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? What you trying to do? And this is actually kind of interesting to me because I'm like, why did he get to make that pose? How come Cannonier didn't get to make that pose? You feel me? I thought the A side, the red corner, you feel me, got to be the big baller shot caller. But tell me what you think about this poster. Describe it for the folks who are listening at home, my man, and give it a score.
Man, I actually really like this poster a lot, Derick. I don't know if it's the color scheme they got going, the pose off, or even like the ripped names where you can see the body behind it in that different color scheme. Man, I really like this. I also like the font that they got going on. I'm a big fan of this one, Derick, man. Especially, I think Kelvin Gastelum's the style of fighter to be throwing that Ice Cube. What's up? Man, I'm gonna give this one a 9, brother. I really like this one a lot, man. How you feeling about this one?
Okay, well, listen, man. Let me do some thinking. I think that this is good color scheme. We got the teal, we got the red. I just don't like Kelvin Gastelum giving the what's up. You know what I'm saying? You the blue corner. You lost a couple fights, bro. Like, you gonna have to chill with all that. But I do like the font. I do like the whole entire menacing nature. Gives me a little bit of Miami vibes, to be honest with you. And so I'm gonna go with an 8 on this one. Tell me one more time. Would you give it a 9?
9.
God damn, that's probably one of the highest scores you can got. So I logged it down. I'll put it in the file a little bit later, man. And listen, man, interesting poster. We'll take it one of the best of the year so far, if that's how we're judging things, man. But all right, man. Folks, let me take this little poster down really quickly and let me just solo myself out real quick, AJ. So I just want to let you all know we're working very diligently here at the Bloody Water Podcast, trying to give you the content that you need, the picks that you need to make some fucking green, you dig? This is what we do out here. This is what we do best. This is why you come to the channel. So to do us a favor, to repay us just a little bit, drop a like, subscribe, and hit the little yellow notification icon. So that way you don't got to hit us up asking, yo, when is the episode dropping? Or, you know, who are you picking for this one? You can find all that out. It'll go straight to your YouTube page when you browse on the web and doing a whole entire 9. And it's just a good way to stay tapped in with the Bloody Water Podcast. I will say once again, bloodywaterpodcast.com, or drop a like, subscribe, and why not do both? How about you do both? There we go. Sounds good to me. AJ, you got any words on that one?
Man, we've been growing a little bit steady, but we know there's a lot more fans out there that ain't hitting the like button or even hit us with a comment, man. We've been really trying to be diligent about hitting back the comments, and I love seeing the homies out there representing and putting the likes in, putting the comments in. We love to see it, man. I really appreciate it. Definitely get those likes in, hit the notification bell. You know how that YouTube algorithm works, and I'm sure all the other Spotify, Apple Podcasts, they all got their own algorithms. So, do us a favor, help us out, all right?
Absolutely, man. So let's move on to some sleepers now that we got all that out the way.
Time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
AJ, man, I always love the great voice of Bobby King Green, letting them know if they sleep on us, man, they gonna get woken up with a stiff right hand, a stiff left cross, something crazy like that, man. I do gotta say there are some really good sleepers on this card. This is a pretty stacked card through and through, and I gotta ask you to go first, my man. Who is your first sleeper for UFC Fight Night 195?
I'd love to wake him up first, Derick. My sleeper this one, leading off the way, is William Knight versus Fabio Sharon. Now, we got two big boys in the 205-pound division, and William Knight, he is a bruiser who was dropping cans left and right before he got to the big show. Now that he's here, he's been taking a distance twice now and looking to get back to his KO ways. All right, now Knight has serious pop on his shots and likes to rush in for the takedown and beat you up on the ground. Now, Fabio Sharon, he got dominated in his last fight by getting slammed and choked out by Alonzo Menefield. So I'm expecting him to fight like it's D-Day on this one and really try to get one back. All right, Sharon is a very talented on the ground, and so I expect him to shoot and look for a takedown. We're going to see two big boys go at it on the ground, really try to hurt each other and put their hands through faces on this one. This is a sleeper to me, Derick, because both of these two have kind of started to fall away and become stale in the 205-pound division. And not only that, but Knight likes to shoot and take your head off, whereas Fabio Sharon will put you to sleep with a choke. This one is going to end fast. It's going to be a lot of fun. It can end in a multitude of ways, but regardless, it's going to be a good time. Who's your first sleeper, Derick?
Well, first and foremost, man, I just need to make a comment. That is one of the best quotes that I've heard in quite some time. Likes to put hands through faces. That's what we love to see around here. Come on, baby. Come on, you dig. Now, let me go for my first sleeper, folks. You know what I do best. I'm talking about a women's bantamweight matchup, 135 pounds. I got Bay Malecki facing off against Josanne Nunes. And I might have butchered that first name. I apologize. She is a Brazilian. She is tough as hell. And she has a 7-1 record where she won 6 of those 7 victories via a finish, man. She's a knockout machine, and I always bring these up as sleeper matches because I say, when do you see 135 pounds or lower in the women's division that are just knocking people out left and right? It's really rare when we're talking about it in the 115-pound division, a little less rare when we're talking 135 pounds. Of course, you got your Amanda Nunez's and things of that nature, but I will say this is a sleeper because Bay Malecki, she's young in the game. She's finished 3 of her 4 career wins via a finish, you know what I'm saying? And 2 of them were in the first round. So when you got somebody who loves Muay Thai, who came up as a Muay Thai champion like Bay Malecki, long and lanky, facing off against another knockout artist, 2 fighters who love to keep it on the feet and love to bang, what else are you expecting other than fireworks, folks? Like, I'm doing easy math here for you. This is an easy sleeper. You type it into the what's a banger formula, the algorithm, you put these fighters in there and you get fireworks coming out the end, folks. So that is my first sleeper, AJ. Hit me with your next.
Yeah, Derick. No, you got it. And I'm glad you do bring up the women's sleepers because these are 2 women going forward that can knock most of the general population out, man or woman. But regardless, for my second sleeper, Derick, I got Brian Boom Kelleher versus Domingo Pilarte. Now, Brian Kelleher, Boom Kelleher, he earned his nickname for a reason. Homeboy carries some power on his shots, and not only does he have the power, but he's got the heart to stay in the war, all right? Watch out for his left hand. He can drop you literally with a check hook like he's Roy Jones, all right? Now, Pilarte, he's long, he's lanky, and he's, again, super strong on his whole left side, whether it's a kick, whether it's an uppercut. All you got to do is worry about this man's left side. He carries some serious power, even though he's a little bit under noticed. All right. Now, this is a sleeper to me, not only because we got 2 very talented fighters on the prelims, but both fighters are coming off of L's. And you know, when that ego is bruised, that's when you fight the meanest. I'm excited for this one. This one's got to tune into early on the prelims, but it's going to be a lot of fun going forward. Who's your last sleeper, Derick?
All right, right on. So my last sleeper, AJ, is going to be Austin Lingo versus Luis Saldana. It's going to be a 145-pound contest, featherweight contest. And this is a sleeper to me because Austin Lingo won 5 of 8 via finish, and he's a tough fighter fighting out of the fabled, the glorious Fortis MMA under Coach Saif Saud. And you know, AJ, I talk time and time again about these fighters coming out of Glory MMA, coming out of Factory X Muay Thai, coming out of Fortis MMA, who are these just, they got the advantage. They got the cheat code. You got got the coach in the corner who's ready to take you to the promised land. These are these motivators. Some people give Saif Saud some flack because he is one of those like screaming at his fighter, I need to motivate you. And some people like motivation, some people don't. Either way, it doesn't matter because this man, Austin Lingo, is getting people out of there. But he's got a very tall task in front of him against Luis Saldana. He's 15-6. He's won 4 of his last 5 via finish, and he's won 14 of his 15 victories via finish, man. Like, this dude is a finishing machine. He's dangerous. He's going to be really, really good rising up the ranks in the UFC without a doubt. And AJ, man, I'm just going to say this. You're going to have to do a little bit of film study because I know you said you ain't been watching any Tough, any of the Ultimate Fighter. We're going to be breaking down a card, I think, next week or something like that, that is going to be the Edson Barbosa versus Giga Chikadze and the Ultimate Fighter finales coming off after that, coming off of that. And with that being said, this dude Luis Saldana, he has a big win against Vince Murdoch, who is like one of the best prospects we've seen on Tough so far. And this is a dude who had supposed to get, a UFC shot, had to get brain surgery, all that good stuff. This is a Contender Series victory. So he has a knockout win against Vince Murdoch, very impressive. And he also has a win against Jordan Griffin in the UFC, also very impressive. So with that being said, that is my sleeper. Gonna be a banger, folks. Come on, this is what we do. We do here. We talk about bangers. Now, real quick before we get out of here, AJ. I mean, let me just ask you, because I actually went back and I did some history, some old school film study on Tough 1. I started up from the beginning, watching the good old Diego Sanchez, Chris Lieben, pissing on people's pillows and shit in the bed, you know what I'm saying? Getting drunk, just all that. It's not the same. Tough is not the same whatsoever. Is there a reason, AJ, that you're not as interested in The Ultimate Fighter, the reality show for men, the Bad Girls Club for men? Is there a reason you're not as interested in 2021 and as you were back in the day growing up, just watching the Nightmare go out and do his thing?
Man, nothing that really comes to mind, Derick. Honestly, man, I just don't watch too much TV, brother. Like, I don't have, I do have the ESPN, and I'm sure it is on ESPN. It might be on Hulu. I don't even know what it displays on. Which one is it?
It's on ESPN Plus.
Ooh, it's on ESPN Plus. I got no excuses then, brother. No, I just, I've been falling away from it, man. I got no excuses, but I do like the fact that they're kind of changing it up a little bit, because we're watching a bunch of drunk dudes just try to fight each other, not inside the cage. It does add a little bit of fun, but it does get a little old pretty quick, especially when, like you said, you got people peeing on people's pillows, or there's some good moments in there, but I hope I like the fact that the coaches are getting a little more at each other's throats on this one, especially with Brian Ortega, and then I just forgot the. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, no, I don't know, man. Is it noteworthy? Is it watchworthy? Do I need to start from episode 1 and watch it all the way?
No, you don't. You just watch the fights. That's it. If you just skip past all the nonsense, because all it is just trying to build them up, give them the life story, and then you go into, all right, now they fight. That's really all that matters. So as long as you go back and you watch a couple of these fights, most of them in the beginning, because it's tough, it's only 2 rounders, you know what I'm saying? Quick, easy. It's fun. I will say Ricky Tercios, man, he is a guy that you got to watch for. He will be in the finale. We'll be talking about that, all that good stuff next week, folks. So that's it for the sleepers. Let's get into some main card action, my man. Let me see, get us over. There we go.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
That is correct. And we gonna break it down, my man. Listen, we're gonna start off with a fight where I was talking in the pre-show, folks. I said, AJ, man, I just need your thoughts off the bat. Why do they have Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval as the first fight opening up the main card? And I think that there's actually a couple of reasons for this, AJ. Let's start off with the first. The first reason, in my opinion, is because Dana White has often said it himself. He said that, well, if you're the featured prelim, sometimes you actually get more people watching your fight than if you're the third fight on the main card. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. This is some of that TV rating type stuff where people are like really tuned into over there at ESPN. However, being that there are only 4 ranked fighters on this main card, 2 of them opening them up, 2 of them are the main event, do you think personally that if you were in this spot between number 3 Alexandre Pantoja and number 6 Brandon Royval, you'd have a little chip on your shoulder, or you would feel a certain type of way, maybe jaded, like, hey man, do you know who the fuck we are? Like, Brandon Royval just fought Brandon Moreno in his last fight. Pantoja already has a win over Brandon Moreno. Give me some thoughts on that, AJ.
I'd be jaded as all hell, Derick, man. You telling me that I've worked my way up from the scrum all the way to, number 3, number 6 in the division, just fought the champ and was doing pretty damn good till I dislocated my shoulder, or like in Pantoja's case, you did beat the current champ. I'd be pissed, brother, especially because there's a lot of other matches later on we'll talk about that necessarily don't really have the clout behind them, don't really have the, the draw or anything besides the weight. besides those big boys that like to swing for the fences, man, it's sad to see that even in today's day and age, the young or the smaller weight classes, the lighter weight classes, they keep getting kicked to the curb. They keep getting overlooked, man, and they got to really earn their scrap more than the rest of the other divisions out there, man. I'd be 100% jaded if I was these two going in, because both of them are brawlers. Both of them like to bang, man. It's going to be a lot of fun for this match coming forward, Derick. Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm with you. And this is actually one of the reasons why I feel the type of way. I think it's because we've done the film study, because we already know what this matchup is going to turn into. So for that reason, it's kind of like, okay, man, this has fight of the night written all over it. Like stamp it on the forehead. Fight of the night all over it, man. So enough of the. So Pantoja, he opens up as a minus 165 favorite against the plus 140 underdog in Brandon Royval. Now, Royval, he had a dynamite start into his UFC career, right? Gets the win over Tim Elliott. How impressive. Submits Tim Elliott. How impressive is that? Submits Kai Kara France after hitting him with he gets dropped, hits him with a crazy spinning back elbow, ends up winning the fight, submits Kai Kara France. How impressive, right? Now stumbles up with Brandon Moreno. It was a crazy sprawl until Brandon Royval, literally throwing a hammer fist, dislocates his shoulder. The worst luck that you could possibly have, because now look at it. Brandon Moreno's now the champ. How the tables have turned. But I do need to say this before we start breaking it down. I need to know who you think has the better nickname, my man. The Brazilian, Pantoja, the Cannibal? How do you get a nickname like that? This man's killing people out here, man. Or Raw Dog Brandon Royval. Which nickname you like better?
Man, I have to go with my boy Raw Dog on this one. I think not only is it like hilarious, if you know the terminology, Raw Dog, Royval, is really funny, but also, man, you don't ever want to be locked in a cage with a homie named Raw Dog. Like, that's the worst. That's the worst case scenario. I'd rather be eaten by a cannibal than locked in there with some dude named Raw Dog, man. That's rough right there.
Now, I'm with you. Now, all right, man. All jokes aside, we got a one fight win streak, if you want to call it that, for Pantoja. 1 fight losing streak for Royval. They're not really streaks, but that is where they stand currently. Listen, in the UFC, man, 7-3 is Pantoja. He has 10 fights. Brandon Royval is 2-1, only 3. I need to know off the bat, experience-wise, man. Pantoja has to have a crazy edge here, simply in experience, right? Royval, he's an LFA champ and all that good stuff. He was doing all that good stuff. But Pantoja, man, he's been around. He's seen it all, done it all, and somehow, some way, he's still, to me, I feel he's under-respected as to the caliber in which he should be. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah, 100%, Derick. Most people don't even know the name Pantoja. I know even the last time we were covering his fight, I was struggling pronouncing it. So, no, he's definitely under notice, and he looked good in the Manel Kape fight, man. Manel Kape, however you say his name too. I'm messing that one up as well. But regardless, man, Pantoja, he looked really, really good, and he was able to put a star like Kape and really kind of make him not look that shiny, man. Pantoja is a real deal killer out there.
Absolutely, and I think that win over Manel Kape, man, and we know how good Manel Kape is, bro. We know how good he is. So for Pantoja to do what he did, some people argue that, Kape should have won. I think Pantoja got it, man. And just more volume, you know what I'm saying? He got the job done. But with that being said, that's a lot of experience. It's a nice feather to have under your cap. And how do you see that experience parlaying into this fight against Brandon Royval? We know one thing about Royval is that sprawls, constant movement, Granby rolls, the whole entire nine. That's what he does. There's no Brandon Royval fight that you're gonna watch where he's not just being crazy, doing crazy things that flyweights do. One thing that I heard that was a good analogy is, he said, if you like to see weights flying through the air, like heavy, just like weights, like dumbbells flying through the air, that's what these two fighters are about to be. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, AJ, I know Brandon Royval can keep this high of a pace for 3 rounds, but the X factor is that he's coming off of a shoulder dislocation, whatever you want to call it. He's coming off of a shoulder surgery, and he even said it in the pre-fight presser, which gave me a little bit of pause. He said that that his doctor encouraged him, like, hey man, you might be rushing it back, and since you do want to come back so early, why don't you fight like number 7 instead of number 3? And he's like, nah, bro, like I just got it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't believe in my heart, doc? Come on, you know what I'm saying? Do you think that Brandon Royval's shoulder injury is going to play like some type of X factor into this fight, man? Because I feel like we can't break down the fight without mentioning this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I personally, I hope not. I don't think it's going to. A lot of the time, doctors, they like to play it on the safe side. They'd rather not, obviously, re-injure yourself and come see them again, even though it's money in their pocket. But a lot of the time, they like to play it a little bit on the safe side. I think it really comes down to the heart and the mind of Brandon Royval. going forward, man, if he's feeling good, because there's times where you'll be throwing stuff, somebody, puts you in a Kimura or something, you feel it, you're like, all right, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But I mean, if he's been putting in the hours in, I think it's not really going to be that big of an X factor. Although you never know until you're rolling around on the ground and something weird kind of happens when you're going full force against another man who's also going full force. So I definitely think it could play into this fight going forward, but I hope it doesn't, man. There's nothing worse than seeing a shoulder come out and you're just like, ugh.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Okay, so, and when we're talking about the X's and O's, we're talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Both of these dudes are black belts. Both of these dudes are absolutely legit. I want to know, do you think anybody has an edge here, or do you think that their BJJ talents cancel out?
I think their BJJ talents allow more often than not, but I think the little that's going into this is Brandon Royval is a little bit more unexpected. He's a little bit more, kind of crazy. There's not too much tape on him, at least. So that way, Pantoja, he's not able to get that much research on him, even though, at the end of the day, it is BJJ. So most everything known to humankind is out there already. But as far as, the little bit of canceling out, I do think we're going to see a little bit more of a stand-up fight going forward because these dudes are so experienced on the ground. What do you think? Do you think it cancels out, or is it going, we're going to see some crazy moves going forward?
Well, so I think that at first, my first reaction was, okay, these dudes, their BJJ is so good, it's going to cancel out. However, I do think Royval's, his scrambles might be a little bit better, but Pantoja's control might be a little bit better. So it's just different in that sense. But I want to actually ask you a couple of questions, quick fire questions. You just give me quick answers on these ones, okay? Pantoja likes to walk forward. Brandon Royval, he can go backwards, he can go forward, but he's crazy, man. Unorthodox, chaotic movements. Who leads the dance in this fight?
I think it's going to be Pantoja's leading the dance, a little sturdy-footed.
Okay, Pantoja, we know he is, like you said, sturdy-footed. He likes to walk forward, and he throws everything with bad intentions, man. Royval said it himself. He says, I don't think I've ever seen a Pantoja fight where he throws a jab that doesn't have bad knockout intentions on it. So with that being said, it's like kind of like Song Yadong versus Casey Kenny, right? We knew Casey Kenny likes to sit down on his shots. That's when Song Yadong would just move out the way, hit him with a couple, and and they just repeat the process time and time again. Wash, rinse, repeat. Do you think that Pantoja is going to have a hard time finding the mark accuracy-wise against Brandon Royval in this fight?
Oh yeah, with how elusive Brandon Royval is, I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging for him to actually not just hit the mark, but hit the mark hard.
Over under spinning elbows for Brandon Royval in this fight. 5. Over under.
Under.
Okay,
but it's a hard one.
Yeah, he said it. He was all like, maybe I shouldn't have done 4 or 5 spinning back elbows in my last fight against Moreno. Probably wasn't a good idea, but hey, it worked for me in the last fight. And ultimately, round 3, 2 minutes into round 3, there's 3 minutes left on the clock. Who has more in the gas tank?
That's the hardest one so far, man. I'm gonna say Royval on this one. I think he's gonna be a little bit more cautious going forward.
Okay, and I'm gonna push back here because I agree with you. I think Royval is going to have the fresher gas tank, but I don't even think it's close, man. I think it's gonna be by a mile. I think Brandon Royval is made for doing these crazy high intensity, putting the pace on you all 3 rounds. Alexandre Pantoja, if there's one thing that we know about him, is that because he throws so hard, especially if it's a big like wrestling heavy, jiu-jitsu scramble heavy contest, by the 3rd round, he's still throwing 100% power on all these shots, but it's a little more labored. You feel me? These kicks are not as sharp. You feel me? These overhands are just kind of looping around. So I honestly think that Brandon Royval will have his best opportunity to get a win in the 3rd round. However, he has to make it to the 3rd round. So my last question before we give picks on this one, and I know this was a little unorthodox in the way that we presented this breakdown for this specific matchup, but the last question is, Brandon Royval has a tendency to keep his hands down. He has very low hands. He's a southpaw. He gets caught. He's been caught in all of his UFC fights so far. He's been able to weather the storm and continue on and win the fight except against Moreno. But nonetheless, when Pantoja hits you, man, it's a little bit different, man. Do you think Pantoja can get the job done in the first 2 rounds?
No, I don't think he can, man. I think it's going to take a little bit more to get Royval out of there. I don't necessarily think it's going to be an easy night for either fighter, to be honest.
Okay, understood. So with that being said, man, give me your final assessment of this matchup and give me your pick.
Man, I think this one's going to be a lot of fun, to be honest. I do think that Pantoja's experience is going to play into the fight going forward, make it a little bit, a little bit grittier of a match, kind of compose himself a little bit more, where Brandon Royval's trying to show out, man. I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. Having both of them be really, really good at jiu-jitsu, I think it's going to cancel out. So we're going to see some nice shots coming forward, some good striking. Overall, I got Royval with a KO round 2. I think he's coming to play, man. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. He has these sneaky knees he likes to throw, especially with his wild strikes. You don't really know when things are coming, and I think that's going to lead to Pantoja trying to get hurt, trying to shoot something, and get caught with a knee coming up the middle, man. I got Royval with a KO round 2. Who you think, Derick?
Okay, so I see the fight playing out just a little bit differently in this matchup. I think that Brandon Royval is going to be very back and forth in the first round, but I think Pantoja, the thing that he does that is good in the eyes of the judges is that he walks forward, he cuts off the cage, and he just throws volume, man. He throws shots, whether it hits you, whether it glances off of you, he's throwing hard, and the judges see that, and they're like, oh, that one landed, okay, regardless if it landed or not. So I think he's going to be cutting off the cage. I think come round 3, he's going to get probably a little bit tired, and that'll be Brandon Royval's round come round 3, and if Royval cannot get the finish, I think Alexandre Pantoja wins this fight via decision. And if the fight does get to the ground and we do get into these scramble situations, we have to remember the way that Brandon Moreno was able to control Brandon Royval in their last fight. He had his back, and he just basically had him for about a round, you know what I'm saying, until they got back up to the feet, did these scrambles and whatnot. But we've seen he's been able to be controlled, and I think Pantoja is a little stronger, just a stronger individual than Brandon Royval. I mean, if you look at the frames, Royval is he's very, frail. So don't get me wrong, man. This whole entire week leading up to this fight, I've been Royval. I wanted Royval to win this fight. I'm rooting for Royval. I just think Pantoja is going to get the job done. I'm also, the X factor for me, I just don't really like the fact that he's coming off of an injury. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's not going to play into his chances very well. I think that's going to hinder it a little bit. Maybe be a little more cautious because you don't want that thing to pop out again. We'll see what happens. Either way, man, it's going to be a banger of a fight. And, I got Pantoja via decision. So, with that being said, we can move on to the next one, AJ. So this next matchup that we got right here, this is a lightweight contest versus the very experienced Vince Pichel facing off against Austin Hubbard, man. And these are another two fighters who got really good nicknames. Vince from Hell Pichel versus Austin Thud Hubbard, man. And this is a really close fight. This is probably the closest fight odds-wise that we have on this card. So this is minus 105 for Vince Pichel, minus 115 opening odds for Austin Hubbard. And I'm a little confused on these odds, to be honest with you, AJ, because Vince Pichel, man, he's coming off of a huge win. He just beat Jim Miller. You know what I'm saying? He out-wrestled Jim Miller. He Gegard Mousasi'd Jim Miller, man. That's crazy. And Austin Hubbard, obviously, he's coming off of a big win against Dakota Bush, but it's an interesting stat that I pulled up, and I think it's since 2018 or something like that, Austin Hubbard has alternated wins every single fight. So it's win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. That's just kind of how his record has been going. And it's interesting, but I honestly will have to say that Austin Hubbard has not necessarily fought the caliber of fighters that Vince Pichel has. Let's talk about last fives really quickly. 6-2 in the UFC is Vince Pichel. 3-3 is Austin Hubbard. And in that 6-2 for Vince Pichel, he's got wins over Jim Miller, Roosevelt Roberts, and I believe that's Joaquin Silva. He has a loss to Gregor Gillespie, AJ. Having Gregor Gillespie just on your last five is very impressive. That is his last loss, actually, was to Gregor Gillespie. Apologies, folks. And we know he's one of the toughest outings in the lightweight division, man. Austin Hubbard, he said he got into MMA because he was bored. You know what I'm saying? He was just bored, just wanted to punch people in the face, do. You know what I'm saying? What are Austin Hubbard's chances to winning this fight, man? In the odds makers, he's the favorite. So I just want to know because I'm a little confused.
Yeah, man. I think this one is one of those ones where Vince Pichel just isn't getting the respect that he deserves, man. I do think Austin Hubbard is the more well-rounded, more versatile fighter. He's kind of got a little bit more going on. But like you said, man, Vince Pichel out-wrestled Jim Miller. That's the crazy thing, man, going forward. So I don't know. I think Austin Hubbard does have a good shot to win this one, but don't be surprised if Vince Pichel gets a KO victory, man. He's got a bomb of a right hand going forward. So I'm feeling a little bit of a way about this one, to be honest with you, Derick.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. And that's been the argument that I've been hearing all week long. Oh, well, you got to worry about Austin Hubbard's wrestling. And I was like, well, you got to worry about Vince Pichel's wrestling too. Like, Austin Hubbard is a really good wrestler, but Vince Pichel is a really, really good wrestler as well. So with that being said, man, I just got a couple of notes on Vince Pichel, man. I think that strength-wise, I'm talking, this is a grown-ass man. This dude's almost 40 years old. Strength-wise, he's got that, dad strength. I don't even think he's a dad or anything, but he's got, that old man dad strength where he's just, kind of stronger than these 155ers, man. I don't know what it is. He has a very patient mentality in the stand-up. It's get in, get out. He doesn't really sit and trade in the pocket too much, which I think that Vince Pichel on the feet, I think that's the path to victory. I think he has a very clear stand-up advantage against Austin Hubbard, to me personally. However, don't get me wrong. Austin Hubbard, he's got a lot of power. Everything he throws, though, is big, right? Let me ask you this, AJ. So when you everything you throw is big, you know, I'm talking about you throw a jab, it's big. You throw a feint, it's a big movement. All of that stuff, man. It's kind of easy to telegraph your shots and for your opponent to kind of see you, oh, move out, you know what I'm saying? Do that. Do you think, because if we're talking about takedown average right here, if Austin Hubbard is this incredible wrestler or whatever, he averages less than a takedown per fight when Vince Pichel averages almost 4 takedowns a fight, you know what I'm saying? With that being said, Vince Pichel is also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, you know what I'm saying? Even though I think if he gets his back on the mat, it's going to be a tough outing for him personally. But if Vince Pichel ducks under one of those feints, Gegard Mousasi style, you know what I mean? Puts Hubbard with his back against the cage, you know what I'm saying? Kind of fold it up like a lawn chair and starts smashing. I mean, that's a recipe for victory right there. And I think that's a recipe for that's just a disaster moment for Austin Hubbard. Do you see that happening, man? Or do you see something else coming into play here? Because I will say Vince Pichel, he actually has a different training camp this time around. He left his old training camp and he's now training over there in, I think it's Colorado, Factory X Muay Thai. You know what I'm saying? So he's out there and he says that he doesn't want to give too much away, but he's really feeling the stand-up. What do you think is more likely? Him doing a straight Muay Thai kickboxing matchup against Austin Hubbard, or him just trying to like be safe, ground and pound? Because that's kind of his style. Clinch you up, put you on the ground, and start beating you up. What do you think is more likely in this matchup?
Man, when I was going over this one, man, I really, really think that Vince Pichel has it on the feet. He can easily get an early KO, especially because Austin Hubbard, he's very calm and composed. He really likes to not really, not too active, but he does like to load up on his shots and throw. So if Vince Pichel is able to kind of see that counter strike off of that and really let one of those big shots, like you said, come in up and under and then get some ground and pound on, I definitely think Vince Pichel is a little bit more wily, if that's the word I'm looking for, a little bit more kind of out there, whereas Austin Hubbard can, he's, like I said, he's a little bit more conservative and controlled as far as the striking goes. So I definitely think Vince Pichel can get it done, man. Like I said, KO early in the fight, something kind of unexpected, because that boy can hit too. I know Austin Hubbard's nickname is Thud, but homeboy Vince Pichel can also strike with the best of them out there, man. How do you see this one going?
Well, I do got to give a little bit of love to Austin Hubbard, man. I'm not sitting here trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to discredit or downplay his abilities as a fighter, because this dude is very, very skilled, man. I do believe that if he gets into the top control, like I said, Vince Pichel back on the mat, Hubbard could keep you there an entire round, man. Like, he's got really solid, tight, just like top control, ground and pound, drop elbows, drop, punches up on you and things of that nature. So I think that for that reason, that's something you got to take into consideration, man. I always talk about it. Like, you could be really good on the feet, but if someone just grabs you up, clinches you up, and puts you on your back, it's going to be a long night. The thing that we're going to have to figure out is Vince Pichel, his takedown defense is 20%. That's not very good. He doesn't really have the best knack for getting back up to his feet. But will his offensive repertoire be able to kind of not allow that to happen? Ultimately, you know what I'm saying? Like, mitigate the takedown factors from Austin Hubbard and keep the fight on the feet where he can keep his advantages. I think whoever can get the fight, and obviously this is so obvious and broad and cliche, but whoever can get the fight to where they are the best at, right? So if Hubbard can get the fight to the ground, if Pichel can keep the fight standing, that's going to be the winner of this fight. I think it is going to be a close fight. Don't get me wrong. Big fan of Vince from Hell Pichel, man. I do think that I'm going to give him the edge in this one personally. I think that he just has a little more tools. I think his gas tank is going to be a little bit better come round 3. However, Austin Hubbard, he's training at an Elevation Fight Team, man. That's at elevation, literally. So gas tank should be good there. Lastly, man, I don't know, AJ. This can't be this simple, right? Sometimes I look at these matchups, I'm like, it can't be that simple, where you're just like, oh, it's just Vince Pichel, you know what I'm saying? Austin Hubbard clearly is the favorite for a reason. Vegas oftentimes is not going to make you the favorite unless they see something or they know something that the rest of us don't know. So I don't know exactly what it's going to be honest with you. I'm looking over my notes. I will say Austin Hubbard, he isn't the fastest, but dude has great, impeccable timing, man. Good timing on his shots. We'll see. It'll be a really good matchup. Obviously, folks, you could see I'm a little conflicted here, but I'll give my pick. I'm going to go Vince Pichel, and I think that he gets the job done just via decision. I think that grown man's strength is just going to be a little bit too much for Austin Hubbard personally, but I may be proven wrong. We'll see what happens, but I'm going with a slight underdog in Vince Pichel. I already know you're going Vince Pichel, right? Give the people your actual pick on that one.
Man, I'm actually going. I'm going Hubbard.
Oh
I don't know if I
shit.
sent you the
Oh.
wrong pick on earlier, man, but yeah, no, I got Hubbard on this one, brother. I think he's a little bit more versatile. I think he's riding a high going forward. I think off of the Dakota Bush win, even though it's not really that notable of a name, but he also had Max Roshkoff retire on him. I definitely think Austin Hubbard is kind of riding that momentum, and momentum really matters sometimes in this fight game, man. Austin Hubbard, or a Thud Hubbard, he was nicknamed that for a reason. Homeboy can strike with the best of them, and he has really great pressure. He stays calm in the pocket, really lets the fight unfold, and really he does load up on his shots to telegraph him a little bit. So I think it does going to be one of those coin toss fights going forward, man. But overall, I'm going Hubbard by decision. I think he's a little bit more versatile, and we're going to see if that's proven right or wrong with Pichel being in the new, Factory X Muay Thai camp. We're going to see how well Pichel really goes into that. But don't get me wrong, I 100% think that, and I won't be surprised if Pichel can get an early KO, man. I definitely think he's very, very dangerous. He doesn't get the love he needs. But personally, I'm going Austin Thud Hubbard by a decision victory. I don't think he's going to be able to get Pichel out, but I do think he'll be able to outstrike him and outgrapple him and move forward with the control factor going forward, man. I got Austin Hubbard by decision. I think either way, this one's a close one. It's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Okay, so I will have to say, I did not see that one incoming. Maybe I didn't read the picks right. It doesn't matter. Obviously, we're doing a head-to-head on this matchup. We'll see. May the best man win. Last couple of notes on this one, because we already gave our picks. Vince Pichel has never lost a fight via decision. Austin Hubbard has never been knocked out. So whichever way it goes, we are definitely aiming. We're trying to hit this one over the fence on that one, man. We're going for the home run hit on that one. So that's the picks, folks. And before we move on to our next matchup, drop a like, subscribe. If you like the content we putting out, show us some love, drop a comment. We dropped the spiel earlier, but we gotta remind you, you know what time it is. And we also got these short clips, man. If you got playlists, if you go through our playlist on the Free Thinkers Club YouTube channel, which is where all our stuff is, we got a preview show playlist, post show playlist, and all the short clips where we can get all the little condensed clips on the fighters that you care about. Maybe you don't care about Austin Hubbard and Vince Pichel, but you do care about Pantoja versus Royval. Go check out that episode. Keep it locked. You know what time it is. All right, folks. AJ, this next matchup right here, this is a last-minute replacement for Trevin Jones. And before we even talk about this, Trevin Jones has got the short end of the stick, man, for his last couple of fights. I have some notes here that says that this is the third opponent change since the original booking against Tony Kelly for Trevin Jones back on 7/24 of this year. Just last month, not a big deal. However, Trevin Jones has noted, he's like, bro, I've made weight 3 times. Like, I've been on weight 3 times, like, in the past month. He's like, this is fucking terrible. I hate this. I've never been more disciplined. I've never kept my weight this low before. And the man just wants to fight. This is a dude who his people flew out from Guam over here to see the man fight, misses weight, so the fight gets scrapped, and then another opponent has to withdraw. And here we are, man. So we got Trevin 5-star Jones. He opens up as a minus 135 favorite against the plus 115 underdog inside Jokub Kakramanov. It's a mouthful. Definitely is. But this is a Uzbekistanian fighter, one of 2. I think Adashev is the other Uzbekistanian that we got on the UFC roster. But we got a killer right here from Guam and Trevin Jones, AJ. Just tell me, before we break down this fight, what does it mean to you, the grit, the tenacity of Trevin Jones to say, I don't care who you put in front of me. Give me a body. I'm going to destroy them, and I'm going to move on to chase my dreams. I don't want to participate. I want to take over. Shout out Conor McGregor. Give me your thoughts on that one off the bat.
I'm sorry, Derek. Say that again, man. You cut out a little bit. I didn't get the full question.
No problem. I said, tell me about the grit, the tenacity of Trevin Jones, what you like about that. He says, I'm not here to just participate. I'm here to take over, put a body in front of me, and I'm going to get them out of there. It doesn't matter. Give me 5 opponent changes. It does not matter. Tell me what you think about that. To me, that's impressive. That's not just a dude who's a businessman. That is a dude who's really coming to be a fighter. Tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, Derek, we were talking about it in the last show, how this is either, entertainment or an absolute war. And I love the fact that Trevin Jones is gritty with him, my man. And it speaks levels. You go watch his fight against Timur Lukivayev. Homeboy, he was almost out of there, man. Timur was hitting him with some hard shots, these crazy shots out of nowhere. Trevin Jones, he curled up a little bit. He was getting punched to the body. If you've ever felt a body shot, you know how much it hurts, man. And he pressed right through it, literally almost got finished, was on the brink of it, but said, nah, fuck that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to work this dude. I'm going to hit him hard with a mean front uppercut or whatever it was. I think it was a check hook. either way, man, Trevin Jones is one of the most gritty people. He got his start in the UFC by taking a short notice fight against Timur Lukivaev. Like, who does that? What kind of insane animal wants to fight this dude? Who, Timur Vaev, man, we just saw him a couple weeks ago, just absolutely putting on a show. So, the fact that Trevin Jones has that grit and that tenacity, that real fighter mentality going forward, I absolutely love it in this fight going forward. I almost, before I started looking into Said Yokub, I was feeling a little bad for him, man. I was like, damn, they're really feeding this dude to the wolves out here. But he can stand up too, so it's gonna be a fun fight going forward, man. But you do got to watch out for Trevin Jones, man. Homeboy is mean in the cage.
Absolutely. And just the raspy voice the man got, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's here to take over, man. And that's a little bit of, we'll talk about it in a second, maybe after this matchup. But Khabib had some thoughts recently. You know, he's been talking a lot more, doing podcasts and stuff. And he was talking about the difference between fighters and businessmen. And I want to comment on that earlier. So hopefully I remember. If not, please remind me. If you don't remember, oh well, we'll get to it some other time. Now let's talk about the actual matchup. Trevin Jones, man, this dude is nice on the feet. Very, very technical. And I think that's going to play a large part into his favor because Said Yokub, even though this dude he's legit. Don't get me wrong, man. This dude is 8-2 in his MMA career. He has a speed disadvantage at 135 pounds, man. But he has a big overhand right and a big roundhouse kick that will knock anybody's lights out. And so he had this fight against Umar Nurmagomedov in the PFL, right? It was his lone PFL performance. And I haven't been able to find too much tape on Kakramanov, but I will say that he stood toe-to-toe with Umar Nurmagomedov, man. It was by no means a clinic for Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov was just a little more efficient, a little more, he was able to touch up on Kakramanov just a little more than Kakramanov was able to do to Nurmagomedov. However, look at all these mouthfuls of words, right? But however, I'll say Kakramanov, he had a lot more activity, a lot more volume. The man could throw, and he's not going to get tired. So if this fight stays on the feet, which I'm not sure if this one will, I think Trevin Jones might try to take it to the ground to just, use the advantages that he has. He is an MMA fighter, not just a stand-up fighter. I think on the feet, it could be interesting because Jones, man, he's got a very balanced approach. And like I said, Kakramanov is trying to take your head off. So you always have to be careful in a matchup like this, right? Because when you got the dude who's got the power, it only takes one, man. And in the 135-pound division, you do got a couple of hard hitters there. I will say, man, do you prefer, in this day and age, AJ, like, I just feel like you have some fighters who have these kind of outdated styles of fighting, and not disrespectful in any way or any usage of that phrase, but I mean, when you go old school MMA is, I'm going to leap in with big hooks. I'm going to throw big overhand rights. I'm not really going to set shots up. I'm going to hit you with calf kicks. Or I guess calf kicks aren't old, but I'm going to hit you with like a kick to your thigh, and I'm not going to set it up. I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you think that stuff works today in 2021? And do you think that approach from Kakramanov will work against Trevin Jones in any capacity? Give me your thoughts.
I don't think overall blanket statement. No, I don't think it works anymore, man. You really got to be masking your shots. You really got to be feinting in. And that's why we've seen like the success of like Sugar Show or something like that. He throws so many feints and so many big bombs that he hits you with stuff that you're not really coming. Although against Said Yokub, I definitely think it could work a little bit, man, because he's and when I was watching Trevin Jones, he really reminds me of a younger T Wood, really kind of patient, wait on the back foot, wait for things to start coming, and then just drive in, blitz in with these heavy bombs. Whereas Said Yokub, man, he can easily catch Trevin Jones with like a head kick or something wild, something that's not masked, because you're going to think of like, oh, I see it coming, no biggie, and then it's something different. He has a very tricky question mark kick that he can throw up and around, so it's going to be interesting. This is one of those fights where I do think the styles make the fight like always, but going forward, I definitely think that old school style is going to add a little bit towards Trevin Jones, where, like I said, he likes to wait for the counter strike to come in, man. He really plays that patient game, but he can absolutely bomb. And he's a righty that fights southpaw, so that jab's going to hurt every single time he lands it, man.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you, man. I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see because Trevin Jones, very patient, like you did say. But I think that, so the power advantage is for Kakramanov, clearly. I think he has a very clear power advantage. Speed and precision goes to Jones. And I think that Jones isn't really a power puncher, man. I think that he just has perfect accuracy. Like, he hits you on the button. And we saw that in his last fight against Mario Batista, right? Where Batista, he's chasing him. He's coming forward. He's doing the do. Jones, he just hits him with that perfect one. Not a lot of output. So that's the thing that worries me here is that Kakhramonov, man, just made it to the UFC. Come on, this is a big deal for your guy. And now he's coming in probably saying, like, if this is my championship fight, getting here into the UFC, I don't know if that's what he's saying, but I would imagine that's probably what the thought process is. He's just going to say, I'm going to throw and throw and throw and throw. And that is the one spot where I can see Trevin Jones falling behind is a volume, type based fight. So if Kakhramonov says, I'm just going to throw more than you, we'll see what happens. He didn't win his fight against Nurmagomedov when he took that approach, but it's still a good approach to take. However, we will say in his last 2 fights, man, he does have knockout victories in the first round and second round both, and he has a win over Askar, the dude who was in the UFC for like 0.2 seconds, you feel me? Got relegated back to the regional scene. This dude, though, I do have to say, Kakhramonov is young, man. He's only 25. Trevin Jones is a little bit older, 31. And if we're talking about overall records, 13-6 is Trevin Jones. Kakhramonov is 8-2. 6 finishes out of those 8 wins for Kakhramonov. Only 7 finishes out of the 13 wins for Trevin Jones. The biggest thing that Trevin Jones did make a note of, though, that I have to say is important, because if you don't know this, then it does change the way that you look at these fighters. Trevin Jones has lost 5 fights via split decision. Is that not crazy?
That's wild, man. Yeah, I mean, that's a rough one, because in any split decision, you think you won the fight. Like, if it's that close, you're thinking, like, I got this. 5, that's rough.
Yeah, so he even said it. He was like, I'm really 19-1. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I'm not 13-6. I'm 19-1. People see those 6 losses and think I'm a scrub or whatever. I think that, so at the end of the day, I don't have any striking stats for Kakhramonov. I just know that he's a big power puncher. Trevin Jones is a little bit sharper on the feet, and I think that's going to lend into my decision. So I think Trevin Jones gets the job done via decision. Kakhramonov is by no means some easy outing. He's only been finished once in his career out of 10 fights, which is pretty impressive. But Trevin Jones is just a little sharper, a little more technical on the feet, and I think he'll be able to exploit Kakhramonov when he's throwing those big overhand shots and the big kicks and whatnot. Who wins this fight and why, AJ?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think the style of that Kakhramonov is going to come play in where he's going to be a little nervous, man. It's your UFC debut, and I do think he's going to take the tact like he did against Umar Nurmagomedov, where he was just constantly throwing shots. But that's actually very dangerous when you're fighting a dude like Trevin Jones. With the precision and the accuracy he has and he carries in his hands, man, it's going to be a hard one, especially when you're just winging shots left and right, and he's able to exploit those holes coming in. I think it's going to be Trevin Jones with the KO early. I'm giving it like a round 1 finish. I definitely think he's going to be a very fun fight going forward. We're going to see some crazy shit. We're going to see a lot of attack coming from Kakhramonov, whereas we're going to see Trevin Jones be able to hit that power. He does. I would agree with you, Derick. Kakhramonov does have the power advantage, but I think the power is really transitioned. Excuse me. When Kakhramonov is coming in, man, if Trevin Jones is able to hit you with one of those little a check hook or a right uppercut, something where your power and your force is actually propelling your body forward, and he catches you with that, that's where we're going to see. I think we're going to see the KO going forward. Like I said, Trevin Jones, KO round 1, brother. I think it's going to be a fun fight.
That was a very, very good assessment of what can go down. I will say Kakhramonov, that is the one downfall. When you know you're going to come forward, they know that they could just hit you with the boop, get right out the way. And Kakhramonov doesn't fight that great off of his back foot either. So coming forward is probably going to be the game plan. Let's move on to this next matchup, AJ. Parker Porter versus Chase Sherman, man. This is a good matchup, believe it or not. And don't let folks, if you've seen Parker Porter, if you've seen any of his full body shots, do not let the physique fool you. This man is deceptively athletic, man. This is a banger of a fight. These two they actually were matched up for Chase Sherman's last fight. Porter, I think he got COVID or something, got sick, and Andrei Arlovsky ended up being the replacement for Chase Sherman. Now, this is something we need to talk about really quickly. Did you know Chase Sherman, he said it in his pre-fight presser, that he actually messed up his knee. He tore up some stuff in his knee right 5 minutes before the Arlovsky fight. So he says that he went from the mentality of, I'm going to steamroll Arlovsky, I'm going to get him out of here, to don't get embarrassed. And those are the things, AJ, that as bettors, as wagering fans, as MMA fans, as people who are making picks, we don't get access to that information. So, I was so confident. I was like, Chase Sherman's going to get Arlovsky out of there. Arlovsky, the ageless wonder, he got the job done. Nonetheless, Parker Porter, he's a plus 150 underdog against the minus 185 favorite in Chase the Vanilla Gorilla Sherman. Love the nickname. I think he is the OG Vanilla Gorilla, not Jason Witt. Either way, man, I think the odds makers have it right on this one. I think Chase Sherman is rightfully the favorite in this matchup because Parker Porter, though I do believe in the power, though I do believe in his output, man, throws a lot. I think Chase Sherman is just a little bit sharper. Muay Thai background. He's a former bare knuckle fighting champion, fighting championship champion. You know what I mean? And this dude, bro, he's with it and he fights angry, and I like that. Sometimes it doesn't work, right? AJ, tell me off the bat, what is one disadvantage to fighting angry in your opinion?
Man, you're not thinking clearly. You're not reacting clearly. All you see is red, and you're just literally gunning for it. And a lot of coaches will tell you right off the bat, you cannot fight angry. That's when you lose. You let your emotions get going. That's when you get knocked out.
And that's Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor. That is Cody Garbrandt versus everybody damn near. You know what I'm saying? Where you just see red Cody. But no, all respect to all of these fighters. Let's talk about it, man. The Vanilla Gorilla, he's 15-7 in his MMA career, 3-6 in the UFC career, man. This is his second stint in the UFC, and he's currently 1-1 in this second stint. Now, Parker Porter, 10-6 MMA, 1-1 in the UFC. So both of these dudes, let's relegate it, and let's just say the second stint for Chase Sherman, this first stint for Parker Porter, both 1-1. Let's see where they propel up from here. BJJ brown belt is Parker Porter. Kickboxing purple belt is Chase Sherman. Did you know that belts exist in kickboxing, AJ?
I did, actually. Yeah. Back in the day, man. I didn't know it was still a thing, though. I didn't know in Muay Thai, I thought it wasn't, but in normal, like American kickboxing, it is.
So yeah, and I didn't really think, because I know karate, you got your belts, jiu-jitsu, you got your belts and all that. I guess we got belts and everything now, but kickboxing, old school, cool. And Chase Sherman is a purple belt in kickboxing under Duke Rufus, man. So that is very impressive, man. Duke Rufus is a legend right there. He's a BJJ blue belt, like I said, bare knuckle fighting champion, heavyweight champ, and yeah, man, regional heavyweight champion was Parker Porter. So those are the accolades for both of these fighters. But how this fight plays out, I say that we got the more powerful, the bigger Parker Porter, who could throw a big roundhouse kick out of nowhere, is fighting a Muay Thai practitioner in Chase Sherman, who's got mean combos, man. He's a slickster. I love Chase Sherman because he's a slickster. Moves the head, back out, get out. You know what I'm saying? Parker Porter, he'll stand in front of you. He'll try to take your head off. If this is another, AJ, you mentioned it earlier, this is probably up there because of the weight as opposed to how this fight is going to play out. But if this fight is just a true stand and bang heavyweight contest, we know anybody over 200 pounds can knock you out with one shot. If it turns into a brawl, who has the edge in this fight?
I think it has to go to the Vanilla Gorilla, man. He's a tactician out there. Like you said, he's a slickster, man. Great head movement, literally moves around. He'll piece you up with these dirty combos. And what I don't like about Parker Porter, I'm actually glad you said it, Derick. Don't let the physique fool you. Homeboy is very fast. He's very aggressive, and he stays composed. He really likes to use his weight, but what I don't like about him is he keeps his head very still, keeps his head online, does not move it, even though he's throwing for the fences, man. So I definitely think if this one stays standing, we're going to see a lot of good things come out of Chase Sherman. We're going to see a highlight reel coming forward, man. What do you think?
Well, I'd have to say that on the feet, in a straight stand and bang war, it's not as simple as Chase Sherman having the edge, in my opinion, because I think if Parker Porter hits you with one, Chase Sherman, he's been rocked in his fights before. I think he got rocked versus Arlovsky in his last fight, man. So it's like, if you could rock the man, it'll be interesting. I'm pretty sure that Parker Porter is a bigger man. Obviously, look at him. He's a bigger man than Chase Sherman. So that definitely plays into a factor when we're talking about weight here. With Sherman, man, what I like about him is the punches and bunches. But when you do punches and bunches, you leave yourself exposed. When you start opening up 2, 3, 4, you never really see more than 2 or 3 from Parker Porter, right? It's very and he'll start feeling himself. And that's, like I said, it's a fan favorite. That's why we love him over here on this program. 2 Americans going head to head, 2 heavyweights. What more can you ask for in an MMA contest? But I will say that there is an X factor to this fight that we need to consider. Parker Porter, he says, this is just business, bro. Chase Sherman, yeah, I'm trying to get that life-changing bonus. This is just business. Chase Sherman says, I don't like that this dude's talking shit. I don't like that he's saying that he's going to make his name off of my name. Like, fuck that. I'm going to go knock his lights out. He says some shit about his titties and all that. Like, this dude's getting personal. It's getting real out here. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, man, do you think that this is going to lend to Chase Sherman fighting a little less technically, and this goes into like that brawl? Because anything is up for grabs when it goes to the brawl, man. We keep revolving around this because in a heavyweight contest, honestly, AJ, you don't expect it to go to a decision. You don't expect to see a tactician versus another tactician. Nobody wants to see that. We don't pay for that in heavyweights. We want to see blood. We want to see knockouts. Do you think that's going to be the outcome of this fight, AJ?
I kind of hoping so, man. I kind of really, if I see any advantage for Parker Porter, it's in the chaos, man. Homeboy, he looks unassuming, but he can absolutely bang going forward, man. I think if this one, like you said, we're not looking for a tactician fight here. Although if Chase Sherman wants to run away with this one, I do think he'll avoid fighting angry. But that kind of sometimes that's your style, man. If that's the only way you can fight and that's the only way you know how to step in the ring ready and feeling confident, sometimes you got to fight mean, man. Sometimes you got to fight angry. Yeah, but if this one goes down to a brawl, I think that's what we're exactly looking for. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that lends itself more towards Parker Porter's style. He does can get a little aggressive and can shoot for the takedown and really, like we said before, put his hand through your face. But this homeboy can brawl too, man. He's very, very slick. He's very fast, even though, like you said, he's a little bit bigger. Parker Porter might have been Chase Sherman might have been making fun of the titties, but those titties can slap, man. It's going to be a fun fight if they do keep it standing.
Absolutely, man. So I just will have to say, just to kind of close this whole thing off, man, this is actually a really good matchup. I know we was given a little bit of flack earlier, but this is a really good matchup. Outside of the looks, you actually go down to how they go and throw down, man. There's got some little bit of heat behind it. I like it, man. Give me your pick and why, AJ.
Man, I think this one is a dangerous game for both of these fighters, man. If the Vanilla Gorilla is able to walk Parker Porter down and not really feel threatened, I think it's going to be a fun fight for him. While as if Parker Porter can land one of those big shots and hurt him, I think he's going to shoot for the takedown, get some dirty fights going on the ground. It's going to be a fun one either way. I think it's a lot closer than the odd makers are putting it. But me personally, I'm going Chase Sherman by decision. I think it's going to get gritty in the first 1 and 2, man. I think it's going to be crazy. I think it's going to get a little, like I said, gritty in the first and second round, where then Chase Sherman's going to be able to calm down a little bit, let the mind start working, and put that Duke Rufus style to work, man. Get the decision win. Who you got and why, Derick?
All right, so listen, man, you got my guy AJ over here. He wants some heavyweight decisions. That's not what we signed up for, man. I think that if Chase Sherman fights the way that he did against Ike Villanueva, Hurricane Ike, and Parker Porter kind of fights the way that he did against Chris Dawkins, right? We love the Dawkins brothers over here, man. I think that Chase Sherman gets him out of there early. I think a second round TKO is incoming personally, because I think Chase Sherman, once he starts going, man, once he starts getting in the groove, it's going to be a long night. But I will say, man, Parker Porter is absolutely a tough test. He's no easy outing, and he's well rested for this matchup. He's had a long training camp for this fight specifically for Chase Sherman. Luckily, they got it rebooked, man. It will be a good one. And yeah, man, I guess we can move on to the co-main on this one, AJ. We got the Carpenter, man. We got a legend in the building. Clay Guida, lightweight contest. He opens up as a plus 140 underdog against the Olympian, Mr. Olympian, minus 165 favorite, and Marco Madsen, AJ. Now, this is a really good matchup because we got a veteran in Clay Guida. We got a former Strikeforce champion. We got a dude who has just been in the game. He literally is a staple of the fight game. He is weaved within the fabric of what the current fight game is. And Marco Madsen, he is a 2016 silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling, AJ. This is absolutely no joke. This is somewhat similar to Kayla Harrison, how she's a 2-time gold judoka in the Olympics, man. Like, she got gold in judo. That's the best in the world, bro. There's no pressure higher than a finals matchup in the Olympics. Come on, what are we talking about here? So Clay Guida, man, we know one thing about him. The man is 39 years old. He is an old man at this point, right? He's no longer the young buck that he was once upon a time, but that gas tank is limitless. That gas tank is endless. He's jumping around even after the fight. He's like, what's up? I'm trying to fight. I'm trying to get it. But Marco Madsen, man, this dude is 10-0, 2-0 in the UFC, and he's slamming people on their head, bro. So I need to ask you right off of the bat, man. I know there's a crazy experience gap, man. 10 fights for Madsen, almost 50 fights for Clay Guida. Listen, that is what it is. That speaks for itself. I need to know this. This is literally what I wrote down for Mark Madsen. The first thing I said, what are the odds, AJ? And I want to know, give me a percentage, 0 to 100%. What are the odds that in the first minute of the fight, Marco Madsen grabs Clay Guida and slams him on his head?
Whoo! I'm gonna say 30%. It is likely. It's not super unlikely that it's gonna happen. I don't think Clay Guida is gonna let it happen though. That's the thing, man. Like you said before, Clay Guida is weaved throughout the fabric that we call MMA, and that he is one of the first fighters to really think of, or when I think of position over submission, when I think of a dude that's going to out wrestle somebody, put the gas pedal to him and just start punching him in the face, that's Clay Guida, man, all day long. Although, against, like you said, the silver Olympic medalist, man, Marco Madsen's no joke on the ground. And like you think he can easily slam people on their head. And if he did it to Thud Hubbard, like we were talking about before, he can easily do it to most of the current fighting roster we see out there. I'm going 30%. What are you giving it, Derick?
Well, I will have to say that Clay Guida made it a notice. He said it specifically. He says, I'm not going to allow that to happen, and I'm going to take down Madsen. I'm going to do it for all the wrestling, OG wrestling fans, man. I'm doing it for y'all. I'm doing it for America, because Marco Madsen is not an American. I believe he's Danish, right? So he says, shout out to American wrestling. He says, Gable Stevenson, the heavyweight Olympic gold medalist, as of 2021, right? He said that's the baddest man on the planet. We know Clay Guida is going back to the wrestling roots. We know that that's literally what he's the best at. He is actually currently right now in the lightweight division. He is the takedown leader in the UFC right now with 57 takedowns landed right now. Third all time in the UFC. The first is Gleason Tebow, but that's just a different animal right there in and of itself. So I will have to say this, AJ. Being that Clay Guida has made it a priority to not allow this to happen, it's going to be tough. But you're not a silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling for no fucking reason, bro. So I think Madsen, I'm giving it a 65% chance that it happens, man. This is a dude who is 36 years old, so he is quite older himself, right? But I do have to say, man, Clay Guida, man, he's got a lot more wear and tear on the body, and I think that's going to play into factor here. Now, this is one of the rare moments in matchups where Clay Guida actually is the more technical boxer in the stand-up. He's more technical on the feet, man, where I think that is his path to victory, if you're asking me, AJ. Clay Guida has to keep it standing. He has to box Madsen up, and he has to get him into that third round, and then he has to pick him apart, man, because if there's one thing we know about Marco Madsen is he will gas himself out for the takedown. That's the game plan. Throw big punches, grab you, slam you on your head, and just keep you there for the rest of the round, man. If you watch all of his fights, it's rinse, wash, repeat, grab you, slam you on your head, keep you on top, ground and pound, stand up again, feint, takedown, bow. We know it. Come on. So, Clay Guida, we know his one main weakness, AJ, and I know you have to know this, being a fan of Clay Guida. He has one major weakness in his game throughout his career, and that is losing via submission. He has lost 10 fights via submission, 7 via decision, 2 via knockout, man. So knocking him out is going to be a tough task. Submitting him, not so much. We do know the guillotine is one of the main things he's susceptible to, right? Because he goes, shoots in, as a wrestler does, guillotine, bow, done, tapped out. I want to know, how do you see this fight realistically playing out, man? Because I basically laid out the whole entire formula. Early rounds is probably going to be Madsen. That third round where Madsen is gassed out because he's kind of on that John Salter type style where he's just trying to gas, grapple, and do the whole nine. Third round could be Clay Guida's his time to shine. Do you think that Clay Guida can get it done in that third round, that he can snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat in the third round?
I mean, I think that is his time to do it. I definitely, when you said that Clay Guida was going to be working towards more of a wrestling style, I was a little upset. I definitely think he needs to do something crazy. He needs to outbox Madsen. Madsen, he'll put the backpack on you and stay there the entire time, maintain pressure, maintain position. So I think if there's a round that Clay Guida is going to do it, it has to be the third. Unless he gets something done early, man. If Clay Guida, out of all things that Clay Guida is, he's a dog above else, and he is there for the fight. And if you don't put him away, man, you don't tap him out, it's going to be a long night for you. I do see him getting, if there's ever a round I'm going to give, it's going to have to be the third for Clay Guida. And like we've been seeing lately with all the judging, man, that third round really does matter. And it seems to be like they're weighing it a little heavier than the rest of the fight too. So I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be fun when going forward with that. What do you think, Derick?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I honestly don't. I think the third round is all going to be Clay Guida, but I don't know if he'll have the juice to be able to get it done, if that makes sense, right? Because if you're all leaving it out for that third round, you got to get the finish. Like you have to get the finish. You just can't win the round, right? But I will have to say this: there's one path to victory for Clay Guida that I really see possible, and I think it could truly happen, man. So first and foremost, Clay Guida said it himself. He says, "Listen, man, all these dudes come in here and think they could just wrestle me up and all that. This is one of many of the new hot thing coming on the scene who's supposed to, overtake me or whatever, right?" Marco Madsen, in his Greco-Roman wrestling, I think is perfectly suited towards MMA as opposed to a freestyle wrestler or something of that nature, right? Because with the Greco-Roman, if you clinch you up, get you in the body lock, that's Greco-Roman all day. You can't touch the lower body in Greco-Roman. So like that's the whole point, is that that's so suited to MMA. But Clay Guida says, listen, man, a lot of these dudes wrestling, it doesn't translate to MMA the way that they think it's going to. I think it will, personally. I think it already kind of has. Not going to get the double legs, but if you can get that body lock, it's going to be a long night. However, for Clay Guida on the feet, if he can calf kick, because Guida has a beautiful calf kick, if he can calf kick Madsen up, man, we already seen Madsen getting his leg hurt, and I think it was one of his last 2 fights in the UFC. He already got beat up in his legs really early on. So if Guida can take advantage of that, man, he'll have even better shot. However, man, I don't know if it's me just being so big of a fan of Guida. I'm trying to give him like the 28, 30-year-old Guida, you know, that type of love as opposed to the where he's at currently. But with all of that being said, man, give me your pick and why. And I want to know this too. What happens? So give me your pick and why, but then tell me what would happen with a win or a loss for Clay Guida coming off of this.
Ooh, I definitely think we're going to see a crazy wrestling match going forward, Derick. I know, and you already said it before, that's what Clay Guida's coming to prove. He's coming to prove that American wrestling is on top. And it'd be a hell of a thing if he can get it done against Marco Madsen, man, because this dude is legit on the ground. And I think we're going to see some, like I said, a crazy wrestling match. Clay Guida is a dog, so we might see something crazy. But I'm going Marco Madsen by decision. I think he's going to get it done. Don't get me wrong. I love Clay Guida, and it sounds hard saying it. I'm shooting myself in the foot probably, but at least for the fans, because I know Clay Guida is an absolute killer out there in the streets. But I go Marco Madsen by decision. I think he's just going to be a little bit too much pressure oriented. Now, what happens if Clay Guida gets an L? I don't think much, man. I think he might be in there for another round, another fight or two going forward, unless he chooses to retire on his own. I think he's done so much for the sport and for the organization. I don't think they'll cut him, but if he does get a win, it'd be interesting to see who they pair him up next with, because that next one's going to be an absolute killer of an upcomer going forward, man. What do you think, Derick? Who wins this fight, why, and what happens with the Clay Guida going forward?
So I think that I'm going Mark Madsen. I think Mark Madsen puts the backpack on him. I'm trying to figure out, like I've been trying to game plan. Tell me what possible universes and timelines can we go down for Clay Guida to get the win. I already named out a couple, but I think the most logical thing, not the heart, but the brain, Mark Madsen puts the backpack on him, just keeps him down there, slams him on his head a couple of times, and demoralizes him more or less, right? Because you got a dude who's like an Olympian, man. I can't discredit that. You're one of the best in the world. I don't care if you're not a gold medalist. If you're a bronze, silver, or gold in the Olympics, you're literally the best in the world, bro. You know what I mean? So I think that's what plays out. I think with the Clay Guida win, however, I think that we get close to that top 15. I think it'll be one of those crazy resurgent moments where it's not to the top 15, but probably 15 through 25, you get reinserted there, and then you just get another young, hot prospect to, you know what I mean, have to fend off to go ultimate gatekeeper status. Because I don't think I see Clay Guida going, you know, oh, we're going to be fighting for a title or anything like that. But I honestly think that he'll be cemented in that gatekeeper status for real. And that's going to lend, I'm doing a little foreshadowing to what we're going to talk about in this main event. But ultimately, with the loss for Clay Guida, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut, man. Personally, he's let me see. In his last 5, he's 2-3 in his last 5. So you'd never want to lose another one on top of that. We already see the UFC is cutting people who are not doing too hot in the UFC right now, man. And even though you're a legend, we've seen legends get cut before, and it's been kind of no big deal. Just water off of a duck's back, and, you know, if you want to think about it that way, man. So it's sad. He's the carpenter. He is a legend, but everybody's time comes to an end. Like Dana White said himself, this is not a career. This is an opportunity. And Clay Guida has been living this opportunity for 50 fucking fights or something close to that. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, AJ, that's the pick on that one. Let's move on to the main event, big dog. All right, folks. This is the main event. We got the Killer Gorilla. Number 3 ranked Jared Cannonier opens up as a -165 favorite in this middleweight contest with a +135 comeback for Kelvin Gastelum, ranked number 9, AJ. And then I have something right here that I need to ask you off the bat. This is the first question that I have to ask you, AJ. This is a quote that I read on Twitter, and I'm going to read it. It says, "You can't be considered a top UFC middleweight until you fought Kelvin Gastelum." This is from @MacMolly MMA on Twitter. Do you agree with this? Is Kelvin Gastelum at this stage of his career a true gatekeeper? Give me your thoughts.
I think so. I think he is, man. Kelvin Gastelum is one of those staples of the middleweight division where we're seeing, we've seen Israel Adesanya, Derek Brunson, all these people fight Kelvin Gastelum go forward, and it's almost a necessity. Darren Till, another good example, man. If you want to make a name for yourself, you have to make it on a stepping stone like Kelvin Gastelum, and it's sad to say for Gastelum and the Gastelum fans, but man, he's really cemented himself, because if you're not the top killer, eventually you're going to become a gatekeeper. And it's really started to see that's where Kelvin Gastelum has settled himself into becoming. What do you think, Derick?
I think that the answer is 1,000% without a doubt. Yes, man, because to me, Kelvin Gastelum is a perennial 5 through 10 in the middleweight rankings. And that's not, bro, if you sit here and you hang your hat on being the 5th best in the middleweight division, in the best organization in the world in terms of mixed martial arts, man, it's like you have your priorities a little wrong. I know everyone wants to be the champion, but to be 5 through 10, man, he's going to go down as one of the best to do it in this day and age, in this generation of fighters, one of the toughest. Given that war with Israel Adesanya, all the highlights of his career, the Ultimate Fighter, the whole entire nine, man, you gotta hang your hat on that good stuff, AJ. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the present, not the past. And Jared Cannonier is going to be a tough test for Kelvin Gastelum, man. However, if there's someone to do it, Kelvin Gastelum can do it. So let's talk about it, man. 13-5 is the Killer Gorilla. He is 6-5 in the UFC. Not really that great, to be honest with you. Kelvin Gastelum, however, 17-7, 11-7, and 1 no contest in the UFC. Now, I do have to ask you this. Jared Cannonier has found recent success moving down to a lower weight. However, the one interesting stat on that is that he threw more as a heavyweight and a light heavyweight than he does now as a middleweight. But I believe that the lowered output has led to higher efficiency and more consistent knockouts, personally. That's what I feel about Jared Cannonier. How do you feel about that sentiment, AJ? Is it surprising to you that he's choosing to throw less, even though he's at a lower weight class and should have a bigger gas tank? What do you think?
It is surprising to me, because that was one of the big things I liked about Cannonier, man, is he had a very good output, very good movement, and he hits very hard. I did notice, but at least I'd like to, is he does like to counter, needs to really lead this dance going forward, because if he lets Kelvin Gastelum lead the dance, it's going to be a long night for him. So I guess it's not that shocking, going over the notes and all that stuff, that he was throwing more previously and starts to really kind of taper it down going forward. But, I mean, it seems to be working for him.
Yeah, so when we're looking at the significant strikes landed per minute, both of them throw about at the same clip, 3.5, you know what I mean? A little more accurate is Cannonier, about 50%, like 40% for Kelvin Gastelum. We're talking about striking defense, almost the same, 64 to 57%. We're right there in that same range. Takedown defense, 54% for Cannonier, 62% for Kelvin Gastelum, man. And Kelvin Gastelum has been working his wrestling more in his recent fights. Lastly, no submissions for Cannonier in terms of like his average right now. And submission average for Kelvin Gastelum is very, very low, almost 0. Now, we do know that Kelvin Gastelum's last win was a very wrestling-heavy approach against a good wrestler, in Ian Heinz. My question to you is that we know Kelvin Gastelum is the stand-and-bang Mexican fighter who's there to brawl, who's there to get it, mean southpaw. What are the odds that he just goes really wrestling heavy approach because he needs the win? This is like a must-win situation for Kelvin Gastelum, who is 1-4 in his last 5. Do you think he takes the wrestling heavy approach in this matchup?
I do, man. Because if there's one weakness about Jared Cannonier, is he'll stay there, he'll stay steady and kind of plant his feet, and you're able to shoot in on a double leg, man, shoot in for a single, whatever the case may be. And I definitely think that's going to be the recipe for Kelvin Gastelum's success going forward. Utilizing that aggression he does have, but put Cannonier on his butt and then really start boxing him up Mexican style that way.
Yeah, I will say that's going to be a very effective game plan, but you're going to have to be able to get that job done. You know what I'm saying? I think it's going to be a tougher ask than just doing it against Jared Cannonier, because everything Cannonier throws has power behind it. Kicks, punches, it does not matter. A jab, it does not, everything. This is like Pantoja-esque, except this is a fucking former heavyweight who's the guy real touch you. He's got the death touch in that hand, you know what I'm saying? His takedown defense is also a bit underrated at 54%, man. He has a knack for getting back up to his feet, believe it or not. In his last couple of fights, you take him down against the cage or whatever, he might be down for a little bit, but he'll at least get his, get a post, you know what I mean, to be able to get himself back up and at least try to get the fight fight back standing. Now, the reason why I think it's going to be dangerous for Kelvin Gastelum to try to engage in some like wrestling with Jared Cannonier is that if Jared Cannonier reverses the position, his ground and pound is so dangerous, bro. You do not want to be underneath Jared Cannonier. That's the last place you want to be if you're Kelvin Gastelum. So for that reason, I think it'll be more of a stand-up matchup because let's be honest, on the feet, man, this is kind of an even matchup. I say Cannonier, he's sharp, he's got the power advantage, but Kelvin Gastelum, he's got, once again, he's like one of those great timing fighters, man. He's just got beautiful timing. He is that southpaw, so southpaw versus a switch fighter and Cannonier should be interesting. On the feet, playing, obviously, Cannonier has the power advantage, but who has the overall advantage in the stand-up, Cannonier versus Gastelum?
That's a hard one. I definitely agree with you that Cannonier does have the power, but Kelvin Gastelum, man, he's a wily veteran. He knows how to strike. He gave Israel Adesanya one of arguably the best strikers in the entire fighting MMA. He gave him a hard match, man. He gave him some good striking looks. It was a back and forth. Although overall, I'd have to say Cannonier. Cannonier, he has some very proficient striking. And I was just reading my notes right now, and I put he has a striking advantage. But it is a very, very close striking advantage. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, Kelvin Gastelum, he is very wily, and he can hit you with some shots out of nowhere, and those are the shots that hurt you.
Yeah, I will say Kelvin Gastelum, he has a left hand that is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. However, he's relied less and less on the left hand because he's kind of gotten Tyron Woodley-esque where everyone just knows that left hand is coming. And if you can avoid the left hand, I mean, what else he gonna hit you with? You know, he has crisp boxing, though. Kelvin Gastelum is a great boxer. But Jared Cannonier, if he just hits you with that one good shot, it's game over and he's rushing. He's not going to sit there and wait and be like, oh, you know, one hitter quitter, walk off. No, he's going to get on top of you and he's going to smash a hole through the canvas. So I think so the question we already asked earlier is who needs to win more, and obviously it's Kelvin Gastelum. However, Jared Cannonier is probably really, really sour right now. He's probably got a bitter taste in his mouth, being that both of these fighters are coming off of losses to Robert Whittaker. Both of these fighters are coming off of unanimous decision losses to Whittaker. And listen, this is the loser of the Robert Whittaker sweepstakes right here. I don't know what you want to call it, man, but I think Jared Cannonier is probably going to be fighting angry, man. He's probably like, nah, fuck this. If he would have won against Whittaker, Cannonier would be the dude who we're talking about, oh, you're fighting Izzy next. You know what I'm saying? So with all that being said, AJ, man, I think this is a really, really good matchup. However, my question is this, man. Do you think this is the correct matchup for the division? Like, why exactly do you think is this matchup taking place in the first place? Like, Kelvin Gastelum, out of all the other contenders in the middleweight division that he could be fighting, why is it Kelvin Gastelum specifically?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was a late notice replacement, wasn't it? I think it might be like 3-week notice for Kelvin Gastelum, because I feel like it should be Till fighting Cannonier.
Yes, you're right. Because Till, he got the what was the injury that he just got, man?
I can't remember either, but I thought that was a matchup, and I could be wrong.
No, it was like the collarbone. You're right, because that's the thing I was going to open it up with, and I forgot to open it up with, is saying that Kelvin Gastelum, he'll take a bunch of short notice fights. Like, he's the guy who steps in, who does the UFC favors, which is probably why he's 1-5 or 1-4 in his last 5, and the UFC is still keeping. No, honestly, you know what I'm saying? Like, UFC has been ruthless recently with who they're cutting. You know, we just saw a favorite of this program, Jerome Rivera, man, Santa Fe's own. We saw him get the boot at 0-4, man. So listen, man, UFC, honestly, they're such a top-heavy, or not a top-heavy, they're such like a, you know, they got so many good prospects and whatnot. I think they're just missing out on this one, because I need to see Jerome Rivera in Bellator. I need to see this man compete for $1 million in PFL. This dude's a fucking stud, man. He had a couple of bad runs, you know, 0-4 in the UFC, but come on, man, this dude's a fucking stud. But with that being said, man, so is Kelvin Gastelum, so is Jared Cannonier. We got off topic just a little bit, but here we are, man. All right, man. So we know Jared Cannonier got the power. Kelvin Gastelum is the wily vet. Kelvin Gastelum has the wrestling advantage. It's going to be an interesting contest. Now, the final question before we give our pick on this one, AJ, I need to know who, like, if Cannonier wins, he's probably in that mix for the title talk. What happens if Kelvin Gastelum wins? What happens if he wins in impressive fashion and shuts everybody up, shuts people like us up and says, like, fuck this. Nah, I'm over here, get the knockout. I'm here to stay. What happens with the win, AJ?
I think he fights Till. If he doesn't get the rematch against Whittaker, which I don't think is going to happen because Whittaker is going to fight Izzy, I think Kelvin Gastelum fights Darren Till, man. Darren Till's been on the shelf a little bit too long, and I know this fight was supposed to happen with Cannonier, but I think he just gets slotted in right next for that, man. If we see Kelvin Gastelum really resurge off of a Cannonier win and then a Darren Till win, man, we might see Izzy or whoever the champ is at that point. But if it still is Izzy, we might get to see the rematch. That'd be a hell of a fun fight going forward.
I agree, man. That would be a really, really fun contest. So overall, man, 13-5 is Jared Cannonier, 17-7 is Kelvin Gastelum. He has more experience. Jared Cannonier, he's just had he's had a good run at middleweight so far. We'll see what happens on this one. But ultimately, I'll give my pick, man. I'm going Jared Cannonier. And I don't know if he'll be able to knock out Kelvin Gastelum because nobody has been able to knock out Kelvin Gastelum. It's going to be a tough task. But I do think that, you know what? Fuck it. TKO round 4, Jared Cannonier. Let's fucking go, man. I think that the man is going to be sitting here ready to take somebody's head off. I think he's going to be fighting angry. He's growing the hair out. He's braiding the hair up a little bit, man. Like, this is the killer gorilla for real. Kelvin Gastelum, if he's trying to focus too much on that wrestling, like I said, I think it might not be the best option for him, but it could work out too. We'll see. Give me your pick, AJ.
Yeah, man. This is one of those ones where I was back and forth many a time before I wrote down my decision. I definitely think the Jared Cannonier, I'm stuttering over my words over here. I definitely think Cannonier can get it done. But me personally, man, I'm going with the wily vet. I'm going with Kelvin Gastelum by decision. I think he's going to put a wrestling heavy effort going forward. He might mix it up in the first and the second, but then I think after that, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, he's going to really take over with the wrestling. He's going to put that experience on his back, and we're going to see some crazy shit coming out of Kelvin Gastelum, man. I got him winning by decision. Either way, like I said, this one's going to be a very close fight, and I definitely think Jared Cannonier can get it done, but it's going to be a fun one either way.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a really, really fun contest, man. A good main event. This is a good main event, regardless of how your feelings are on it, regardless of the short notice replacement, any of that. This is a good event. The last thing that I just want to point out is just a couple accomplishments for both of these fighters. Cannonier, he's a former regional champ, 14 fights at heavyweight and light heavyweight, so we see it clearly. He's a big boy, or he was once upon a time. 3 performance of the night victories, 1 fight of the night victory, or 1 fight of the night bonus, I should say. Kelvin Gastelum, 10th planet BJJ black belt, man. Not a lot of people know that because he very rarely uses the jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, but he is a tough 17 winner, 4-time fight of the night winner, 3-time performance of the night winner. Come on, man. You know, this got fireworks written all over it once again, man. So with that being said, AJ, that's the picks, you know. So drop a like, folks. Subscribe, all the good stuff, because we got one last piece of business we need to take care of, and that is going to be the fight of the night, man. Now, we got a lot of places to go on this one, AJ, and I'm curious to know, who do you think will be the fight of the night for this one?
Man, I think it's going to be Vince Pichel versus Austin Hubbard. I think that's going to be the fight going forward. Honestly, man, like I said before, I'm going for a Hubbard, but don't be surprised if Pichel gets that KO win, man. He can bomb. Yeah. Who do you think it is, Derick? Who's going to be the fight of the night for you?
So the easy one, the one that I already mentioned, is Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Like, I don't know how that can't be the fight of the night, especially because they're flyweights. They're going to be throwing a bunch, but I will have to say that there's a lot of really good matchups that you could be watching out for on the prelims as well, man. So with that being said, Sasha Palatnikov versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Folks, you got a dude fighting out of Hong Kong. You got a dude who just got his ear ripped off in his last fight, coming for blood, coming for gore, coming for guts. I think that's going to be a really, really fun matchup, man. Both of them are really good strikers. And Brahimaj is fighting out of Fortis MMA, once again, Saif Saud with the cheat code. I think that'll be a really, really fun matchup. And it's the first fight of the night, man. So if that one opens up and we get a fight of the night on the first fight, come on, bro. What are we talking about? So, folks, that was our fight of the night picks, man. Thank you once again, always, for rocking with us, folks, man. We sitting here, we doing this week in, week out, breaking down the fights, doing a bunch of film study, and we just gearing up, man. UFC 266 is right around the corner. Got a lot of really fun ones on that one as well, but clearly, join us Mondays and Fridays. These episodes drop 8 a.m. Mondays and Fridays. You can check us out. Go to Bloody Water Podcast for everything that you need, and ultimately, man, hit the YouTube channel. You see the little, let me see. You see that little button right there. If you're watching, subscribe. Come on, bro. Subscribe, drop a like, all the good stuff. You know what time it is, folks. We appreciate you. Couldn't do this without you, but I think that's it for us. Any last words for the people, AJ?
Nah, man, you said it best, Derick. Hit us with a subscribe, and we'll see y'all next week. We'll see you for the post show. It's going to be a fun fight night, man.
Absolutely. Until next time, folks. Peace.